We're back. Excited though. I'm gonna plug it just a little bit for you, Jason.
Okay.
When it comes to scheduling, you're like some kind of guru. Check out what you got. Like, go check out what he's got on YouTube. The guy is a scheduling genius and he's passionate about it. It's fun to watch. So we get to talk together about it, apply just some of the principles. I mean, we can't hit it all today.
Yeah.
At a later date, try and get into it in more detail, but go check out his YouTube channel, check out what he's got going on. Great stuff. We're going to talk about, hey, here's these concepts, try and apply them to the civil world, to the dirt world, figure out what feels right, maybe challenge you a little bit, and work through these concepts.
I love it. So high level, because a lot of these would require, you know, some detailed sketches and things like that. And I love the challenging back and forth. In my mind, there's 4 scheduling systems that are kind of, well, you could say 5. So there's the typical Gantt charts that people are familiar with, right? That's where you have the overall time scale on the top, the activities to the left, and each individual activity is basically in a little matrix, right? Yep. So then there's CPM scheduling, that's critical path method, and that's where you put activities into a database with logic ties. It basically becomes a precedence diagram, and what the software or the calculations do is it runs a forward and a backward pass. There's an algorithm that condenses that information and creates a critical path. And a critical path definition is the chain of activities where they have 0 float, and if any one was delayed, that it delays the overall project. There's a planning system, which is my favorite, Tact planning, T-A-K-T, and that planning system, Tact is a German word, so they use Tact Time, and Tact means beat or rhythm. So on a construction project, usually it's like this, right? Tact Time attempts to put the work into a rhythm, into a predictable and leveled rhythm.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Is there anything behind that? Like, is there a reason that they want it to be in a rhythm?
Yeah.
Is there like some scientific thought process behind that?
Yeah, 100%. Because when you're in a rhythm, then the notes, like if we were thinking about it on a sheet of music, are predictable.
Gotcha.
And the notes in construction, ooh, this is good. I'm doing a good job here. The notes in construction are the trades.
Awesome.
Or the crews.
What I think is interesting about rhythm is we often don't realize the role it plays in our lives, but just think about how even memory, how memory works with rhythm.
Yeah.
Like 90s country song comes on, I shouldn't know that, but I probably know every word to it because there's a rhythm to it.
Yeah.
Even like, I think back to some of the formulas that I've memorized. A lot of the ones that I can just recall really quickly, there was some type of rhythm that was put to it. And so it's like, oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
So anyways, go ahead.
Like I could do everyone a disservice. Like if I start saying, never gonna give you up, never gonna, like,
you know,
you're not gonna forget that for like in 15 minutes. Yeah. And then you start dancing. So I agree. Yeah. The rhythm, so we gain on time and we make money when we have a couple of things. When we have rhythm, continuity, and consistency. Okay. So rhythm, you already explained it, right?
Yep.
Continuity is, do we have continuous flow? And consistency is, are the crew sizes consistent? Is the work consistent? Are the materials ready in a consistent manner? Is the flow of information consistent? And that's really where we make our money. And so when we say, is there something behind tact planning? And I'm not bad-mouthing other scheduling systems. I'm just saying, when you put a bunch of data into a database and you're like, vomit it into the database, and then you start logic tying it, and then it becomes a 36, 76-page schedule. Nobody knows what in the world is going on. Like and this is legitimately hidden. Like, I'm not joking this time. Like, it is hidden from there isn't any of us that can read a black and white schedule, 36, 76 pages, and see the one thing that matters to you the most, or the one thing that matters to you the most. And that is trade flow. That is crew flow.
Well, and I would just argue that the critical path schedule tries to map out critical path, but the relationships between activities is never fully represented. Like it's rare that they show that electrical has to be the light pole bases before my work can start.
Yeah.
That just the relationship isn't created at the level and detail that's needed to really capture what's needed to create a critical path.
And it's all a projection.
Yes.
And so by sheer virtue, and again, I'm not being critical, I'm just saying, if you have a critical chain, a critical path, and you optimize one activity, then as soon as that activity is optimized, guess what?
Everything
now
else
you have a new critical path.
Yeah.
And so you're always chasing the rabbit, you know, and it's, you can never catch it, right? But there is one thing about trade flow or crew flow. If you have crew number one, they're going to go from area to area, and as you optimize it, they're still going to go from area to area, and you will continue to be able to optimize that sequence. So like you might have, and people are going to freak out when I say this, but depending on how things change, you might have 25 to 50 different critical paths manifested in a project schedule. But when you look at things from a trade flow standpoint, critical flow, or the flow of the job, you have 2 or 3 bottlenecks, and you're constantly optimizing those and making them go better and they will go faster. Faster isn't the ideal. Go better, and then they accidentally go faster. But when you're optimizing those bottlenecks, you will always have those 1 or 2 or 3 that you're constantly improving and optimizing. It's consistent. And so the reason that I don't, there's a couple of things, and so this actually takes us into a different conversation, but I love that we're getting a little bit distracted here. But this is what the tact plan typically looks like. If you really zoom in on this, I don't know if the camera people want to zoom in on this, but you can see the workflow by area, and then this green, that's a trade. That red, that's a trade. You can see that trade flow, and even if it doesn't remain beautiful like this, you can see what's happening to your crews and when they're losing money. The other thing is, you know, you're going from area A, B, C, Z, you know, you can see the logistical flow. So workflow, trade flow, logistical flow. Here's the revelation. Trade flow is the most important. Like, seeing the work that happens in an area is not. Seeing how trades go from area to area is. If you paid me to come to your company as a consultant to help you out, and you wanted to make more money, I would not focus on workflow, and I would not focus on logistical flow. I would focus on the flow of your trades from area to area.
And when you say trades, that can be subcontract partners or crews.
Or your crews, yes.
Correct.
Because again, like we were talking about before, it's the starts and stops that cost you money. It's the rework that costs you money. I want your crews to be able to go with the same leader and the same workers, consistently from area to area, because when they do so, they make production. Yeah. And the point is there have been studies that show that when you change people from crews, you're like, okay, now you have 4 more people today, or I'm going to take these 2 away. Most of the time in the industry, they're like, yay, we get 4 more people. No, it's going to take them a couple of days, if not weeks, to get onboarded with those new people. That reduces our productivity. Now you have 4 more people. That increases the complexity of communication within the crews, and it slows down our production. Now the crew is overburdened, and it slows down the production. There are all of these different dynamics within teams, within crews, that really slow us down. Overtime will kill us, to your point. We were talking about this the other day. So do I want crews that are going all over the place randomly, and that are getting additional people, or where the foreman might have to switch, or where that crew has to switch for different tasks? No. I want that crew to have their same 4 or 5 people going from area to area in a consistent flow every day. That's the genius behind tact planning.
I think the challenge that I hear the contractors saying is like, no way. I've put more people on a job and we get done faster. I've done it for 30 years. When we get in a tight spot, we put more people out there and we get it done. What would you say to them?
I would say that if you put the right amount of people, you can go faster. If you could put too many people, you'll definitely go slower. What I'm saying is, if you have, like, let's say, for instance, if you have, I'm trying to think, like 1 million square feet of finished pad to grade, right? And instead of one crew, you can get 2 or 3 or 4 crews and work in different areas. You're going to get it done faster. My point is, in that one area where your crew should be working, when you add more workers to that specific crew, you're definitely going to go slower.
Yeah.
So it depends on the circumstance.
You're installing sewer, and you're installing it in one area.
Yeah.
Once you get above 6 people, probably start to maybe slow it down. Yeah. And even if it doesn't slow it down, even if it was to just stay the same, your costs are going up and you're getting nothing for it.
Yes, getting nothing for it. And it's harder to communicate to 6 workers versus 4. Yeah. It's harder to onboard new people, right? It's even just harder to transport them and their tools. It's hard, now you have 6 people that are being trusted to do different things from a quality standpoint, and now you've got 2 more single points of failure, right? Yeah. And so the point of tact planning, and it works in civil almost better than it does with vertical. The only thing that I could say is probably easier than civil is in the interiors of a building, where, like, if you took a hotel or
because it's repetitive work, floor to floor,
same thing over and over. But aside from that, civil is actually the easiest place to implement tact planning, because you can give me a site development project with 23 house pads on it, or a multifamily project or something like that, and we tacked it out: area 1, area 2, area 3, area 4. And how will the trades flow through there in a process? Most of the time in the industry, you have to go clear the whole site. You have to go clear and grub it, and you're probably going to do a lot of mass grading because your ag tech has you pulling from here to go to here. So I get that. Yeah. But for the most part, a lot of contractors, they go bring in all the equipment, and they're even buying, hey, I'm going to go buy a $500,000 or $1 million piece of equipment. I need to go faster. Well, we're overproducing. You don't need to grade all 35 house pads right now. It's going to rain. Well, not in Phoenix, but in most parts of the world, it's going to rain. There's dust control. There's all these things, right? You're going to, if we produce that too soon, we're going to trash a lot of money going back and fixing it. Why not stay 4 or 5 house pads ahead of the utility crews, right? So we're producing, let's get it up to speed, right? And then your utility crews are coming in with sanitary sewer and storm drain and underground electrical, and you're moving around and you're not overproducing it. And guess what? Now you're releasing this to the owner or the multi-prime contractors, the home builders or whoever, right? And they're coming behind you and they're taking over. But when you go through and you mass grade all that, and then the utilities, then you're going to store materials, and then you've got your piles over here, and then the owner, oh, I need these houses before this. Okay, well, I've got this huge pile of dirt. Well, now we got to move the pile of dirt to here, and then we got to move it out. That right there is where we're losing our money.
Yeah. So a few thoughts. Okay. All right. So one, in our company, we used to always talk about growth. And one of the things,
what?
Growth.
Okay.
One of the things I would always say is, we're only going to grow as fast as we can be excellent.
Yeah.
Like, let's just focus on, let's be excellent at what we do, and the growth will just happen.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to schedule, it's very similar, which is, let's not worry so much about how quick we can do it. I think I've heard you say, do it better. Let's do our craft well.
Yes.
Let's go out, let's do our craft well. When that happens, you just get quicker. You're not even focusing on it, but we're installing it right, the flow's right, we're doing it better, and you just go quicker.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
It has a huge effect on the bottom line. When it comes to tact planning, and in your experience, do you see that on a regular basis where you go in and you aren't really working on overall duration? You're saying, hey, let's create flow, and you work on that. Are you seeing on a consistent basis where the schedule actually does come in?
Oh yeah. So let me explain that from two standpoints, because I think that it's a really good point. So first of all, everywhere that I have seen tact planning implemented, it's kind of a boring project. So you and I were really complaining about the consequences of contractors and general contractors, quite frankly, running and pushing and crash landing projects. And then they're like, we need you, especially at the end, right? You're always there at the end doing the site work, and you've still got the exterior going up, or you've still got like, you've got structures going in, or they're right on your tail, and you're like, I don't even have time for this. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're squishing me here, you know? And it's just this like barn burner till the end. And this is what's happening is we really, in my mind, we really don't have a worker problem. We don't have a skilled trade problem. I mean, I'm going to freak you and everyone else out by saying we have the misutilization of the skilled workers that we have problem, in my opinion. We have a lot of well-intentioned people out there on the sites, on projects that just don't know about the production laws, that are using 88 electricians instead of 15, that are using 3 pipe crews instead of 1, because they have them rushing in this mad form of waste when they could get by with less people.
Yeah.
Go ahead, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think, you know, whatever you want to say about scheduling, like, hey, the way we're doing it's dumb, the way we're doing it is whatever. I think we can all agree if there's a better way, then we should be doing it. But what's most important in my mind is like just the realization is there is a better way. And
that's better.
the most, like, there's this huge part of the construction industry that don't even know of it. It's kind of like, you know, part of the leadership platform, Build What Leaders, is all about how do we help superintendents, how do we help foremen, how do we help project managers become leaders? Well, the reality is we have a lot of people who aren't good leaders in this industry. Is it because they are dumb or stupid or whatever? No, the reality is it's because we haven't trained in it. And so what's awesome about this is, like, hopefully you're paying attention and you're saying there is a better way. Let's take note. Let's talk about it, because every job site in America could probably be visited right now, and they would say we don't have enough people. And you just said that's not the case. Obviously, there's the naysayers.
It's the case. It's not the problem.
Okay.
It's the case. It's not the problem. The problem is we're not utilizing them the right way.
So I guess what I mean by that is those projects could still be being completed on time, under budget, if they manage their resources appropriately.
Yes, and what I'm saying is that most of the time, like, we sit here, and thank you for the correction. It's that most of the time, when I say, so the word, let me reallocate the word stupid. When somebody says there is information out there that would help respect people, and they say, I don't want it, I'm going to stick with what I'm doing, I think that's a stupid decision.
It is.
And so thank you for correcting me on that. What I'm saying is that, you asked me, hey, how does this work with Tact? I could take you right now in Phoenix, Arizona, actually to multiple jobs where they're using Tact planning, and you go around and they're getting by on an 80 plus $100 million project. This is vertical work, so I apologize for all my dirt people, but they're getting by with 110 workers. And then you go to another $100 million project, and they've got 320. And the reason is scheduling. It's how they schedule it. The Tact job, they have smaller crews going at the right rhythm in a predictable way throughout the project, not freaking out, not pushing, and they're getting by with less. And unfortunately, we have trade partners that will go service the mad rush contractors for whatever reason, I don't know, and throw their people out there just to go lose money. And it's happening over and over. So we're like, we don't have enough workers. We don't have enough workers. We could reclaim 40% of the workers that we have misallocated and get them trained in a consistent flow, respected, and back home to their family safely if we just started scheduling things right. Like, period, end of story right now. I have never seen a tacted project do anything but finish well. Now, if the owner says, here's a $30 million change order, obviously the end date's going to extend. But here's the genius of the system. When you don't focus on that trade flow, not you, but when a contractor doesn't focus on that trade flow and they're just scheduling happenstance, then if I was to filter out just your activities as a trade or one of your crews, It's here, 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 backwards, here, here, here. It's all over the place. So I needed 5 guys, and then I needed 10, and then I needed 15, and then no kidding, I needed 35, then I needed 0, then I needed 5. Now I need 45, 45, 50, 15, 2. What is going, that is not how things work, right?
Yeah.
We are not going to finish on time. When you plan on a typical schedule, hey, here's what I'm going to do, and here's my critical path. You've eaten up the whole duration. What tact planning does, it says, here's the start, here's the target end date. There's a formula in here that works from a production law called Little's Law. And what it says is, if you break out all of the activities by area, and you say area A, area B, area C, and you know the sequence here, and you know the sequence here, and you know the sequence here, and then you actually schedule those, and I'll pull you back to this picture. Each one of these rows becomes the schedule for that area. There's a formula that says, and this isn't too complex, you're going to love this, that the number of tacked wagons, which you can count them in a single row, plus the number of tacked areas, so you can count them going down, minus 1, multiplied by the duration, meaning the tact time of an individual tacked wagon, equals your overall project duration. And this is the magic. And this is a bag of magic. Like it just fell out of heaven one day. If you decrease or increase the number of areas you're working in, it will optimize the throughput time. It will shorten the overall project time. Meaning, inevitably, when we go to a 40,000, I'll use a vertical example and I'll do a horizontal example.
Yeah.
If we're going to do a level 2 on a building, 40,000 square foot floor, usually we would guess is, by the way, I just want everybody to know, if you're not, unless you're using tact planning, every schedule you get from a general contractor is a guess. There's no science, there's no continuity, there's no rhythm, there's nothing, there's no historical production. I'm speaking as a general contractor, it's all just one wild beep guess. Yeah. That's it. There's no science. So what happens is you'll schedule that 40,000 square foot floor into like 4 areas. Oh yeah, I as a builder think it should be split up into 4 areas. Well, that will give you an overall project duration of like 126 days. Okay, as soon as you break that down into 6 areas or 8 with the exact same duration of time for each of the trades, then that will shorten typically 28 days, 32 days, 40 days. Now, what do you do with the additional 28 days? They become buffers. They become buffer times to where when you do experience that delay or that material procurement, you move the sequence together forward and you can eat into those buffer days and not be pushed so hard. If you take a mile-long run of 12-inch water main, right, and you're breaking those out into 2,000 or give me a linear footage. Maybe it's I
don't know, like 1750, that's a quarter mile.
1750, something like that. Inevitably, once you plug in your sequences by area and you run it through this Little's Law formula, you find out that you can shorten the overall duration. And actually, and here's the trick, you'd have to see it. So I'm challenging all of you to come see one of these videos. That once you shorten that overall project duration by making your batch sizes smaller, the actual time that your trades and crews have to complete the work increases.
That's cool.
That means that let me just use my hands, when you had contractor 1, contractor 2, contractor 1, contractor 2, and a 30-day duration in 2 areas, 1, 2, right? You have 10 days for that trade. If you broke that down into 6 areas, by the time you take 6 areas at a 3-day tact time instead of a 5-day tact time, and you go area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, when you take that first crew, the amount of days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you have 12 days instead of 10, but because you're at a steeper incline with more batch areas, smaller batch sizes, you have an additional 10 days that you gained at the end of the projects. Yeah. CPM scheduling doesn't do that. And the other thing is when you have a rain day, what are general contractors doing? Push, get through, go de-water, get through the mud, blah. No. We're shutting the job down today. We're shifting the whole thing in and we're going to eat a buffer day.
Yep.
You can't do that with CPM because you don't have the buffer days. So what I'm saying is, yes, you get, because you're focused on trade flow, the only real thing that's going to make us money and the consistency and the continuity of that system, you get by with less people, smaller crew sizes, which is better for communication, consistent crew sizes, which is better for production, not working overtime, which is better for production, right?
Yeah. And safety.
And safety, doing quality work the first time outside of, these people are not rushed. This is my time. They might even finish earlier. And instead of us saying, okay, we'll hurry to the next area. If you got an additional 4 hours, you clean your equipment and you like reshake out your pipe and you like go teach your crew and you're like, hey, what do we need to do for the next task? And you start the next task in the next area on time. You don't push it forward and you don't push it past. So they're not rushed. And when they're not rushed, they do the next area better. And so tact planning projects are kind of boring because everybody's in a flow. I mean, there's variation, but you have buffers to absorb that variation. Yeah. And so this could, we have two-day certifications that people can go to. There are tact boot camps. There's a book on the podcast right now. I'm reading the second version of this for free. But the bottom line is, until we start to obey the production laws, we're never going to win. And they are Little's Law, the law of bottlenecks, the law of variation, Kingman's formula, and then actually there's Brooks's law. So Little's Law says make smaller batch sizes and do the work, finish as you go, limit work and process, do one thing at a time, and do it the quality way. The law of bottlenecks says that you will have processes, meaning like processes that will be bottlenecks in your system, and you have to find those and optimize them. And the law of variation says that as variation increases, your project duration will increase. And Kingman's formula says that your cycle time within a crew, you said this will take 5 days. Well, it's only 5 days if you reduce variation. It's only 5 days if that crew is working at 100% capacity. We need to plan our durations based on the amount of expected variation and at what percentage capacity that crew will be at. And then Brooks's law says that as you increase manpower for a specific crew on a task above what is needed, that it will extend the overall project duration. And we in construction are fighting against those, and we are kicking against those, and tact planning makes us conform to them, which is why we gain. And that brings you back to the point that you were making, that in this industry, we got to stop. Like you mentioned 410s, or you mentioned going at a consistent rate, or you mentioned getting there when we can actually show up with the right crew. If we don't get to that point, we're not going to win.
Yeah. I think as I'm listening to this, I think this is kind of my takeaway. I probably shouldn't say this on camera, but I'm going to. So here it is. We're going to hire you. We're going to go do this on a job, because I think that's what we need. Like, we need to see how this really makes a difference in the dirt world. So we're going to get you out. We have a big project that's starting. We're going to do this because, to me, now that I know there's a better way, I'd be stupid if I don't try it.
Okay.
Right?
That's awesome.
So we're going to go try it out, and hopefully we can bring you guys along, and we can show you. We can like come back and say, hey, this is what we did. This is what we learned. This is why it was awesome. Okay. And you know, I mean, what's the worst that could happen? We could use tact planning to, you know, what was the Scrum book? Reduce our cost by 40%,
yeah.
and 40% less time, or something like that.
So this every dirt person will want.
Yeah.
Not the book, but the concept. I mean, buy the book, please. But I give this to people free on the podcast. You can go to the Elevate Construction podcast. But Scrum is great for design and pre-construction, and for your office teams, and for people that are in the office that are scrumming, meaning getting flow to the field. Yeah. And then I'll give you one more book, The Lean Builder. I'm sure people have heard of that before. This talks about the last planner system and how to make our scheduling on a short interval basis more collaborative. And so these two books, these are the short interval systems, the weekly, the 6-week look ahead. This right here is your master scheduling system, but it also does the short interval. So I just want people in the dirt industry to have an awareness of that, because it's so crucial. I just want to leave with this thought. I went to a $480 million structure the other day with a huge general contractor, and they had their best experts, and they're losing money, and they're freaking out about it. And because they didn't have their batch sizes correct, because the scheduling system was designed wrong. It doesn't matter what expert you bring in, how many decades that foreman has for experience. It doesn't matter any of the financial targets. They're not going to win until they start to adjust the areas to the right batch sizes to fit within the production laws like they do in manufacturing. And so that's my point. I want everybody to win. So please take advantage of those scheduling systems because there's so much more out there to it. So in closing, there's tact planning, which really needs to govern all systems. The other thing is, if you have crews, who's out there fighting for trade flow? Me, like tact. Nobody else is like, hey, let's take care of the flow of your crews. Like, if anything, anyone watching these videos should be more loyal to like us and this and tact, because when you look at it from another standpoint, it only suits the overall project from a very myopic standpoint. And so I'm just saying, like, let's get trade flow back, let's get consistency back, let's get these workers respected, let's get them home on time, let's not overburden them, let's not work them into the ground, let's not have crash landings, and this is the way.
Yeah, awesome. Well, like I said, we're gonna reach out to them, we're gonna get them out on a project, we're gonna try this out, we'll get back to you guys and do a follow-up, let you know what we learned, and we're excited about it. So thank you for joining us.
On we go.